right. So, right now, it may seem like it's all kinds of confused and befuddled and all goofiness going on. Okay? But hopefully, after today and Monday and all that fun stuff, that it looks like all happiness and just keep swimming. Okay? So tomorrow, what is it, week 10? Is it yellow? Week 10 homework is due tomorrow in class, and you have a summative quiz. And that's one that you can't fix. Summative quiz tomorrow in class. There will be some combining like terms, some multiplying, some factoring, some solving, some of the big stuff like we've been doing yesterday and the day before of, here's a function, solve it, find the zeros, factor it, and all that fun stuff. Tomorrow on the quiz, and next week, Friday, on the test. It is extremely important for you to read each problem's directions, because that's going to tell you what the answer is going to look like. If it's factor, then you're going to have sets of parentheses. If it's solve, then you're going to have just numbers at the end. If it's a divide problem, or it's going to be a polynomial. If it's list out all the possible zeros, then there's going to be a bunch of answers in there for you. Okay? So you've got to read, slow down. I intentionally made tomorrow's quiz shouldn't take you more than 2 mods, so that you have that extra mod to slow down and make sure you read and have all the right answers. Okay? All right? So, our warm-up today is, first I want you to list me all of the possible zeros. Then I want you to find me how many zeros does this one have? 3. Then I want you to find me the 3 that are actually the zeros. So first list all the possibles, then find me the 1. Or the 3, excuse me. All right, let's start with possibles. Okay. So I need to first find factors of 3, because 3 is my last number, my constant number, and the factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Then I need to find the factors of 2, which are 1 and 2. So my list of all possible zeros is plus and minus 1, plus and minus 3, plus and minus 1/2, plus and minus 3/2. Okay. Did anybody find one that worked?
-1.
-1? -1? All right. Okay. So let's go with -1 for our first zero. Coefficients were 2, -5, -4, and +3. 2 multiply, -2. Add, -7. Multiply, +7. Add, +3. Multiply, -3. Gives me 0. Okay. So -1 is a 0, which means that x plus 1 is factor. Okay. So f of x can now be written as x plus 1, that's the factor that I just found, times 2x squared minus 7x plus 3. Is that 2x squared minus 7x plus 3 factorable? I think so, isn't it? Right? Get negative 1, get negative 6, combined gives me negative 7. Yeah. So this would be, right here, this would be the factored form of f of x, which could possibly be a quiz question tomorrow. Okay? List me the zeros, find me the factored form. Find me the zeros. It could be, we could do all three. Okay? Which I think backside of your homework for this week, I think it makes you do all three of those. List all the possible zeros, rewrite f of x in its factored form, and then find all the zeros. Okay? So that would be possibly one there, or a potential test or quiz question. So we get x equals negative 1. That's the one we found. I get positive 1/2 as another one. And I get 3 as the last one. Okay? Now, if you would have found 3 as your 0 first, then your path would have been a little different. But in the end, it would have been the same. It would have been the same from factored form down. It would be the same. Okay? So our 3 zeros are negative 1, positive 1/2, and positive 3. Good. Love it. Okay. So from yesterday, our steps to finding the zeros. So first off, we said yesterday, let's find all the possible zeros of the function by taking the constant factors. Oops, I forgot stant. And dividing them by all the factors of the lead coefficient. Okay? So that's how we do that. Okay? Then we said yesterday that we need to use synthetic division to divide out the zeros, or to find them, right? Or to find 1, or 2, or 3. Today, I'm going to give you a shortcut on that. Okay? So the shortcut is that you can use a graphing calculator or Desmos here to narrow down your search. Okay? Which makes it easier then, because you don't have to do all that guessing and checking. You can go right to the first or the second zeros. Okay? We'll do that on our 2 examples today. Then, factor, use the quadratic formula, etc. to find all the remaining zeros, and we are done. Okay? So, no matter how you do this, you've got to show all of your work so that we know that you're not just, you know, putting it in a solver or math typing it or all that fun, not math typing, photo mathing. Yes. Okay? I know people in the past have done it. Who would want to use photo math? It doesn't, it actually, it's not very good. I've used it. Okay? All right, so here's our function. We kicked it up a notch. Okay? So we've got 2x to the 4th power plus 5x cubed minus 18x squared minus 19x plus 42. Okay? Now, what you can do is you can look for all of the possible zeros first. Okay? So we would need factors of 42. What are some factors of 42? 1. 2. 3 is a factor. 4. No. 5. 6. Yep. 7.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Now, when you're doing factors, once you get those two, once you start coming back up, like so 6 times 7 is 42. That means that you found all of the original ones. Now you just got to find the corresponding pairs below that. So 42 divided by 3 is 14. So 14 would be the next one. 42 divided by 2 is 21. So that would be the next one. And 42 divided by 1 is 42. Okay. Then you need all the factors of 2, which is just 1 and 2. So my list. We got all those, right? Because that was us dividing red by 1. Now we got to divide red by 2. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, already in my list. 3 divided by 2 is 3/2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, already in my list. 7 divided by 2 is 7/2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, already in my list. 21 divided by 2 is 21/2. 42 divided by 2 is 21, already in my list. So there is my list of potential zeros. 5, 9, 12, all 24 of them. Okay? Now, it would be kind of hard to actually figure out which one of those 24 make it work. So, let me pause for a second here. Okay? So, what you can utilize is you can utilize Desmos. Okay? So how you can utilize Desmos is you can do 2x. How do I do exponents on Desmos? Okay, gotcha. To the 4th, and then I got to come down off of that, and then I got to do plus 5x cubed. I'm not a big Desmos guy. I mean, it's great, but I have a graphing calculator, so I use that more. X squared minus 19x plus 42. Okay, so there is the graph of my function. Okay? So what that tells me is that I'm looking for where this function crosses my x-axis. So it crosses here at -2, right? Okay? So -2 is going to be a 0. With me? Okay? Then it also crosses at 3/2 because this is 1 1/2. So 3/2 is another 0 for me. Okay? So let's go back in here. So from our graph that you guys did in Desmos, or that I did right here with my graphing calculator, okay, it said that this is -2 and it is a 0. It said that this, oops, that should have been red. Oops, tap the brakes. Lost everything. It said that this is 3/2 and that is a 0. Do those show up on my list? Yeah, okay. So if -2 is a 0, then that means that x plus 2 is a factor. Right? Okay. If x plus 2 is a factor, so then we can go and we can say -2 goes into 2 and 5 and -18 and -19 and 42. -2, -4, 1, -2, -20, +40, +21, -42, 0. Okay. So this tells me that f of x can now be written as x plus 2 times 2x cubed plus x squared minus 20x plus 21. And you work alone. Okay. Now, we said that 3/2 is a 0. Get my writing the same. Okay, 3/2 arrow 0. So that means that x minus 3/2 is a factor. Right? Following the same logic. Okay. So now I can put 3/2 into I'm not going to go back to my original function. I'm going to go with this factored function. Because if it's a 0 of the original function, it's a 0 of all of the factors until you use it in that function. Okay? So I'm going to go with 2, 1, negative 20, and 21 there. 2 is 2. 2 times 3 halves is how much? 3, yeah. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 times 3 halves. 6. Negative 14. Negative 14 times 3 halves. No. Negative 21. Because it's got a 0. Right? Okay. So now f of x can be written as x minus 3 halves, x plus 2, and 2x squared plus 4x minus 14. Now, I'm going to jump back in onto Desmos here for one quick second. Do this very left one here, does that look like a nice, pretty number? Because in our list, everything was halves, right? Okay, so that one's not going to be nice and pretty. That to me says radical. Okay, likewise with this far right one. Okay, not at a nice even spot. So that to me says radical. So that to me says that we are as factored can be. Okay? So now I can set my factors equal to 0. And those are the two that we found from our graph. And then we've got this one. So if it's not factorable, what do we got to use then? We got to use our quadratic formula. Do you want to divide everything by 2 first to get our numbers a little smaller? Because we can. Which then would give this and our fully factored, we divided by 2 there. Okay? So we've got x here equal negative 2 plus minus square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 7 all over 2 times 1. 2 squared. 2 squared. 4. 4 times 1 times negative 7. Negative 28. 4 minus negative 28. No. Minus a negative. Oh. No. 4 minus negative 28. Ooh. That's 32. Can the square root of 32 be simplified? 16 and 2, right? Here, I'll do it over here. So that's 4 square roots of 2. All my outside numbers can be divided by 2. So my 4 zeros that I need are -2, +3/2, and -1 plus or minus 2 square roots of 2. Okay. All right. Do it. How do we start this problem other than writing it down? Find the possibles. Okay. So what are factors of 25?
1.
Yep. Yep.
25.
That it? That's it, right? Okay. Factors of 1. Just 1. So my list is plus or minus 1, plus or minus 5, plus or minus 25. So we got a pretty narrow list, right? Okay. How many total zeros do we need in the end? We need 4, right?
Yeah.
Now, some of them might come from this list, and some of them might not be on this list. And we found that in the last example. We had 2 off of the list, and we had 2 not off of the list, or not in the list. Okay? So if I were to graph this function, here is my graph. Okay? Now you could Desmos it, you could straight up just keep trying because there's really only 6 of them to choose from in this one. Okay? But if you plug this into a graphing type calculator or a graphing utility, okay, this would tell me that -1 is a 0, and this would tell me that 5 is a 0. Right? Okay? So, if -1 is a 0, oops, R and 0. What is the factor? X plus 1 is the factor. All right, let's find it. So if we do -1 is my 0, what are my coefficients in the function? What are the coefficients? 1? No. 0 first. Yep. Yep, because we got to have the 3, then -16, then -40, then -25. 1, -1, -1, 1, -15, +15, -25, +25, and 0. Right? So that tells me f of x now is x plus 1 times x cubed minus x minus x squared minus 15x minus 25. Right? Now what? Do the other 0, right? So 5 is a 0. Which means what is the factor? X minus 5 is the factor. Okay? So I'm going to put 5 in. What are the coefficients that I'm going to use? No. What are the coefficients that I'm going to use in my synthetic? 1. I'm going to start with 1, yes. What's the next one? Negative 1. I'm going to use these blue ones right here. Yep. This function right here. So then negative 1, negative 15, negative 25. Oh. 1, 5, 4, 20, 5, 25, 0. Okay? So now my function is x minus 5, x plus 1, and x squared plus 4x plus 5. Two numbers that multiply together to be positive 5 and add to be positive 4.
5 and negative 1.
Multiply together to be negative 5. Any? How do I know, based off of my graph, how do I know that there's not any?
Because that graph is go past the x-axis more
Than the 2 that we went?
Yeah.
Yep. So we can't have any other one. So what are those two roots going to be? They're going to be imaginary because it doesn't show up on our graph. It would show up on our graph if they were real. Okay? Doesn't show up. So here we go. Let's find them.
Okay,
Well, let me finish this problem first.
Alright.
So there's my 5. There's my negative 1. We found those two from the graph from the start. Okay? So we've got x equals negative 4 plus minus negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5 all over 2 times 1. Negative 4 squared, 16. 4 times 5, 20. 16 minus 20. Negative 4. Square root of negative 4. What was it? How many eyes? 2 eyes. Square root of 4 is 2, right? 2 eyes. All my outside numbers, can they be divided by 2? So we've got negative 2 plus minus I. So my 4 answers that I need: negative 1, positive 5, negative 2 plus I, -2 minus I. Okay? Yes, sir.
So, do not have to do that with the other.
This f of x has been the same all the way through. We've just been factoring it as we've been going through. With me? So f of x started out as x to the 4th minus 16x, that one. Okay? After we did this first one, then we rewrote f of x in this black line.
So no matter which equation you would use, those answers.
Yeah. So if we would have went with, we went -1 here first. If we would have went 5, we would have gotten a different factor on the big long factor. Okay. But then once we did the -1, then this one down here, that one would be the same for both, no matter what. Okay, so the paths would diverge, but they would reconverge right there. Everything else after. Okay. So on the 3 questions on the back side of your homework, we are asking for the list. So we would want to see the list of possible zeros for each one. Then we're asking for the complete factored form of each of those. That would be that one. Then we're also asking for all the zeros. Okay? So those 3 would be the answers for your homework this week.